Today I'll be cataloging part of my book collection, and these are books that I have yet to read. There are 12 of them in total, and how we'll conduct the catalog is I will categorize them into different areas, and it is by the likelihood of me reading them in the upcoming, say, 12 months, or how interested I am, what were the reasons why I got them, as well as why they're relevant to my, interest, and yeah, all of those things. I'll write everything down in my notebook so I don't forget, and perhaps by the end of it, I'll read one of them a little faster than I perhaps would before doing the cataloging, and just to get to know some of these books, because even though I got them all by myself, I don't quite remember what they're all about and perhaps the reason why I got them, and this will serve as a refreshment. So the first book is Gastrophysics by Professor Charles Spence, and according to the Observer, it is a smorgasbord of revelations. Serves up a mind-bending menu of fascinating insights. It's a pretty good start. Apparently, it is the new science of eating, with a foreword by Heston Blumenthal. Blumenthal sounds quite familiar to me, though I cannot quite place it as to why it is familiar to me. And apparently, I think Charles Spence is the scientist changing the way we eat. Well, we're going to see how that is. I'm going to write down the title of the book and by who it is. So, okay. Let's go to the back, because here in the back we have the price. So the original price from the 18th of September of 2018 was 15 euros 0.95, but I got it for €1.95. A lot cheaper. And in the back you have a nice little design with different colors. Looks like Skittles, though they're a little larger. And I suppose they're different colors to sort of mimic different flavors and tastes, and also to create a similarity of the difference in colors that we see and the difference in flavors. That's what I think. And yeah, I'm gonna write down the price. It was quite cheap. And the reason why I got the book is because I had just started working in a restaurant as a waiter, and I'd always been interested in food and cooking. I've always loved cooking, and I was interested as to why we taste things differently and why certain things appeal to a lot of us, like garlic and onions and all of those things that are used in a lot of cultures, and therefore must appeal to a variety of people. And now I work in a kitchen, so it should be all the more relevant to me, to help me understand why certain flavors work together, and why certain things are cold or warm and whatever. So it should be all the more relevant. And now um, it is, I'd say, a middle-sized book. Has exactly 300 pages, and 300 pages. Has a nice design. The font is perhaps a tad too small, and the sentences are perhaps slightly too close to one another. Let's say it could be perhaps a little larger to make it easier for the eyes, perhaps more pages, because I'm pretty sure it would get quite tiring to read it in long sessions, just because my eyes will have to travel a lot so they will get tired. But I just saw a word cover over there, and I was like, okay, I've got to read it. So yeah, that was the first book. Not too long. Is relevant to what I'm doing currently, and looks good. Seems to have a lot of scientific insights that I appreciate. Therefore, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll place it on, I guess, if you take account the formatting of the thing, it cannot be a 10. I'll place it as an 8.5. So a point off from the lettering, and the length, considering I've been working a lot, not great, but also not the worst. 8.5. Okay, let's go into the next book. The next one is Perfume, the Story of a Murderer. According to, once again, The Observer, it is witty, stylish, and ferociously absorbing. Written by Patrick Suskind, it is a penguin-like gastrophysics and a classic bestseller. Beautiful design there with some flowers, a skull, and half of a fruit. So the reason why I got the book is because I was writing this book that had a lot of similarities with the story, is what I heard. And the moment, every time I tell, the plot to people and some of the close friends, they said, sounds quite a bit like Perfume. And I had never heard of Perfume, didn't know what it was about. And once I read some descriptions about the movie and the book, I was like, yeah, it is quite similar. So yeah, I thought, okay, I'm gonna give it a read and see if I can get any inspiration or leave the project altogether. But it seemed quite interesting, and that is the reason why I got it. I bought it quite recently with my girlfriend. We were in a different city. We saw this bookstore that had a lot of antiquities, and the Perfume was there, and it was in a quite good state. There's also a description by The Guardian here. So The Guardian and The Observer appear twice, and also two Penguin classics. The original price was £8.99, pounds, and I got it for €7. Um, it is 263 pages. The formatting is a little easier to read in terms of font size, but unlike the other one, this has less paragraphs and it's a little cluttered together. There's something that is not quite appealing to the eye. I can't make it out what it is, but it should be easier to read just because the letters are bigger, so my eyes will have to travel a little less. And I feel like there's more spacing in between the words going from up to down, so it should be a easier thing to read. So let's write the name. It's Perfume by Patrick. So let's get so it's 263 pages. And it cost me €7. So it is relevant because of the story I'm writing. It is not very long, therefore I could knock it quite quickly in a few sessions, because I don't read very fast, neither very slow. Depending on the layout and everything, it is between 45 seconds to 65 seconds per page. I feel like these would be between 50 to 60, and the other one between 60 to 65, just because of the different formats and also the size of the books and everything. But yeah, if I were to tell you, I'm not quite as interested as I probably should, and I'll read it because there is a lingering interest that will probably never leave. I'm feeling a 7 on the likelihood of reading it. Yeah, 7. Mainly because it should be higher, but yeah, I'm not feeling it quite as much as I probably should. Still, seems to be very interesting and beautiful design. The third book is The 120 Days of Sodom. It is once again a Penguin classic, written by the Marquis de Sade. On the front page you can see, I forgot what the name is, on the cover page you can see an upside down cross, and inside of the cross there's a picture of buttocks or something that resembles that. There's a name in here and the date 1933, which is probably when the book got made, or at least this version of it came out. There's no newspaper or company saying anything about the book. I think since it's a little older than the rest, the years that he has had to create a following and everything doesn't require any type of saying because it is very famous as is. Or perhaps because it is, you know, a little bit more on the edge of things. It's pushing more boundaries. Therefore, I don't think they'll be just advertising it for anybody. The time has come, friendly reader, for you to prepare your heart and mind for the most impure tale ever written since the world began. Well, that does catch my attention, and okay. It is translated with an introduction by Will McMorran and Thomas Wynne. And it is indeed written in 1933, with this version coming out of 2016. It cost €1.75, and I think I bought it last year or 2 years ago maybe. The reason why I bought the book is because I heard a lot about it when I was a kid. I don't know how young I was, but I knew that I heard a lot about it. And the moment I saw the book, a type of memory unlocked inside of me. Not necessarily a memory including, things that happened, but a feeling unlocked inside of me that I had to buy it because I was curious about it as a kid. Therefore, I should be curious now as a grown up as well. And I enjoy things that push boundaries a little. And I wonder what it is about. I have no idea. Therefore, it is quite catching my attention right now because of this whole mystery surrounding what it is about. Of course, there's going to be some sexuality involved, but I figured it's probably going to be more as well, because a lot of pleasure is connected to deeper things regarding our childhoods and our upbringings and everything. So it should be an interesting read. This is what I hope for. In terms of the formatting, the layouts, I think it suffers from the same problems as the other ones. Though, yeah, so the letters are very close to the edge here, which is not quite ideal. You have to do a good job on the extreme sides. I feel the spacing is correct, the sizing acceptable, just mainly the inner part that gets slightly too close to the edge. I think it does classify as a big book. 309, 400. "17 pages, and to me, anything above 400 is a big book. So I'll mark it as such. The by $417, cost me $175. I'm feeling quite interested. perhaps even more interested in astrophysics, though it is not quite relevant to the things that I'm reading or researching right now. And I'll get more into that with the next book. So I'll probably give it a 7.5 because I don't think I'll read it as soon as the curiosity asks for. So 7.5. Yes. So the next book is a book in Portuguese, though not Portuguese of Orange, and it's written by Allan Kardec, and the title is O Evangelho segundo o Espiritismo, contendo índice analítico dos assuntos, 274 repetes. So, the reason why I got it is because I've been writing the story, the screenplay, that involves not necessarily spirits, but something beyond human life, something that we share space and time with, but we can't necessarily touch or interact with in a direct form. So we cannot walk up to it and just see it or whatever. At least not most of us can. And the story has that parameter. It has that thing that you cannot touch but you can feel, that you can perhaps not see but you can imagine, and it is there, but you sense it in a different way, and you participate in an interaction in a different way than just, talking or getting to it. And I've been studying about spirits as of late to not necessarily portray a spirit, but understand the way they are seen and perceived, and so that when I show something in a similar category, that I can show it, nicely, in a way that can convey emotion and that can be interesting as well as acceptable. Not necessarily something just silly, just something that seems dreamlike or avant-garde for no reason. So I wanted something that felt structured and real. Therefore, I went to spiritism, and this is in my mother language, Portuguese, and I didn't buy it. My mom had the book in her shelves for years and years to no end, and when I first saw it, I was kind of scared. As a kid, you're kind of, sometimes you're scared about those things, and I was scared of it. And I always knew that she had that book in her shelf, and I always wanted to read it. And I think now is the time. So probably 3,400,000 copies have been sold of this translation. Yeah, sorry, because I was reading it and my mind just switched to Portuguese. It is quite old, and it's falling apart, but it doesn't matter. É um livro de consolações e de orientações seguras que os Espíritos nos legaram como apoio e roteiro de nossa vida. Essa obra define a essência religiosa da doutrina espírita como sendo a do cristianismo redivivo, restaurado pela interpretação que os Espíritos deram aos textos evangélicos. Allan Kardec, quando redigiu seus livros, escreveu para o povo em linguagem simples e sendo essa uma tradução literal. A linguagem simples original ficou preservada. So, the coloring of the pages is different, and you cannot see it most likely, but it was printed slightly uneven because this part is closest to the edge and this one's a little further away. But yeah, pure white color on the pages. Seems more like a religious book in the sense that it has a lot of numberings with the chapters. Oh, I just found a little pamphlet inside. Okay. Sant Antonio. Okay. And it seems like a religious book in the sense that it has a lot of numbers with the chapters and it is not quite what I had in mind. So for that reason, I looked up today another book of his, and it was the Book of Spirits, or Spirits Books, or something in that sense. And it seemed a lot more relevant to what I'm doing than this, because this has to do with the evangelical, what evangelism is to a spirit. I don't know how to translate this in my mind right now, but the way Spiritism sees evangelism, and to me that is not quite relevant because I don't know enough about the first aspect, neither the second. Therefore, I am reading something that I will not understand. That will probably touch onto things that I will find interesting and nice. I don't think I'm quite ready to read it yet. So it has 365 pages. I can't say much about the formatting inside because a lot of religious books are written like this and a lot of people read them, so it works and it has work time to time, and yeah. So yeah, let's write it down. O Evangelho segundo o Espiritismo do Allan Kardec. It was free. It has 367 or 63, was it? 63 pages. I'll have to knock it down to perhaps a. Will I read it this year? I think the rest I will, because I talked about them and I read a little bit about them and I got interested and I want to read them this year. This one, though, I don't think so, because I have some other books planned out to read in terms of spirits and spiritism. Currently the other one by Helen Kardec, and there's Buckland's Book of Spirits, and there are other books as well. Today I just finished the Manifesto by Karl Marx, so it is not going to be read this year. I find it highly unlikely, so I'll give it a 3. Most likely not going to get read this year. Maybe one day it will. We should. Honestly, it's here. Why not read it? But not this year. So, the 4th Penguin Classic out of 5 books. It's a short one by William Shakespeare. Is this a dagger which I see before me? And if I'm not mistaken, this is from a newer collection of Penguin Classics that has a lot of short books. And they are usually not very famous. They're more cult classics from very famous writers. I think there's some from Jane Austen, from William Shakespeare, from I don't know who else, but the less famous ones. Yeah, I've never read Shakespeare. And my girlfriend, she's studying Shakespeare at the moment in university, and I mean she was at the time that I bought it, not anymore. And I thought I might get into it. Months have passed and I have not read it. I tried starting it when I was at work in a movie production, and I had to wait a lot to do my job. So I tried reading it in the cold at night with my smoke machine in hand, and I did not understand a thing. And of course it has to do a lot with not being familiar with the language they use at the time, with it not being my first language, and then just being overall quite hard to read, I guess. But since that day, I have not given it a try again. It could be that it is a lot easier now just because my mind is rested. I'm not outside in the cold in the dark trying to read something, because it was quite misguided of me to try to read it. But yeah, a Shakespeare story. It cost me €5.86. So as you can notice, I buy a lot of, if not all of my books secondhand, and I don't like to spend more than €7 on them, preferably between 50 cents to €3. So this book is 110 pages. Dagger. guy. It's 110 pages. Was 585. 6. I think I'll read it this year. Mainly because, oh, and when I shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars. And when I shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars. Interesting. I don't know why you would say that, but if it's angry or heroic, but we'll see, I guess. We'll see. I think I'll read it this year. Not in the upcoming months. And because of that, there may be the danger of, forgetting about it. But my collection isn't all that big. So, I think I will. I'm not necessarily all that interested. Though the formatting, I guess, is okay for this type of story, and it is a different type of thing, so it makes sense. It should be easy to read in terms of your eyes and formatting. Size could be a little bit bigger, but it's fine. Since the pages are so empty, you're not gonna get tired that fast. Yeah. Once again, no foreword or comment about it. It's William Shakespeare. His name is already enough publicity. Yeah, I think I'll give it a 5.5. Not that interested, but the chances are more. They're leaning more towards reading it this year than not. So yeah, I'll give it a slight nod edge. Okay, getting into number 6. Consider Her Ways and Others by John Wyndham. Another Penguin classic with a futuristic cover. The book is quite old, or at least used. It cost me €1.50. I knew it was, I don't know what it is, the P's in the United Kingdom, but it wasn't pounds, but pences or something like that. 95 cents in UK form. $2.95 Canadian, Australian dollars. $1.95 Canadian dollars. So it is a cheap book by a writer that is not all that famous. It has one novel that is very famous, and that is the reason why I bought this one. Because I read The Day of the Triffids, and I loved it. It was nice. Very nice. And I thought I liked that one so much that I might get something else from him. And I was in a thrift store. I saw this. I was like, okay, I'll indulge. The cover itself, very interesting, and I wonder what it is about. Top quality from Britain's unchallenged master of science fiction by the Tribune. Mr. Wyndham writes strongly and has a gift for bizarre plots. Okay, so we're gonna expect science fiction, a bizarre plot. Sounds pretty good. I quite like those stories. You know, The Time Machine, War of the Worlds, Day of the Triffids. Um, there's I Am Legend here as well, The Plague, so pretty good. Should be a fun read. Not necessarily very informing, just fun. 1989 pages with beautiful yellow colored pages. That's quite nice. Though the formatting again leaves some to wish. Small, but not too small. Very close to the edges inside, the inner edges. But it shouldn't be too hard to read. I love because when I got The Old Man and the Sea by Hemingway, it was very similar to this, also yellow colored, and even though the formatting wasn't great, I read it quite fast. And it could be because Hemingway writes the way he writes. But I think the pages had something to do with it as well. So I think if I were to read it, I mean I will, but if I were to read it, it'd be quite a quick read, given that the story is good. And I think it could be fun, perhaps not great, but fun. This is the type of book that I would probably read either in a bus or when you're in an airplane, when you don't want to think too much, you just want to consume something for time to pass. Probably pick this one out of all of these. Alongside perhaps the 120 Days of Sodom, but I guess that requires slightly more patience because the book's larger. And with this one, I'd probably be like, okay, if I don't pay the utmost attention to some certain pages, I'll still get the gist of the story because it probably would not be very intricate, but perhaps it is. I don't know. But we'll see. I am quite interested for some reason. I think it should be an easy read. Yeah, I think I'll read it this year. So, John. $150 with I also have the chrysalids on my Google Play app. I'll probably read that one as well. So it has 189 pages. I think I'll give it a good 6.5. Interested, though not really very relevant or something that I read all that often. But I know it is something that I almost always enjoy. So perhaps I should read it more often. Just from the fact that I enjoy it so much. It's like reading it's like watching, say, let's think about it. Stranger Things, maybe. There's not much to it, but it is fun. And you watch it, you're like, okay, that's nice. It's not dark. It's not True Detective. It's not Breaking Bad or whatever. But so this one is the next one. The 7th one is related to what I want to do in the future. By Sitfield, the Screenwriter's Workbook. possesses exercises and step-by-step instruction for creating a successful screenplay. From noted teacher, lecturer, and best-selling author of screenplay. A workshop approach. So, by Sidfield. So I want to make movies. I want to direct and write movies. And I write quite a lot, and I've written quite a lot. But you can always improve. You can always adopt behaviors that make you a quicker, more efficient writer. And by knowing more, you can probably access easily what you're doing wrong and solve those mistakes quite fast. Always faster than you probably would. And even if you get nothing out of it, there's always something you learn, so you always get something out of it. And I had, like, when I got this, was a bundle of 3 books. I've read one of them, and it was nice. Did I learn a lot of new things? Not necessarily, but you get to understand the mindset more. And by understanding it and getting more familiar with it, I think you sort of start adapting and adhering more of those routines to your own writing process. And I want to become a writer that writes more often than I do currently, that is perhaps slightly more clear with my action lines, that understands more cultural aspects that should be introduced into the story, because it is something that people should watch and enjoy and be able to follow. And I'm not quite clear sometimes with the storyline and the things that I'm trying to portray, because I like Tarkovsky and Lynch a lot, and a lot of films that are not very clear, but those were made by masters. I'm not a master by any means. I'm not even close to that. So I think that I should understand first what it is to become a good, competent writer of simpler things and perhaps, more normal things, and then get to the point where I write those things that are slightly more challenging to understand and develop. So I got me these, and I like to constantly read books about screenwriting to, get used to other people's systems and, understand more how it works to them, and they are part of the industry, and I want to be part of the industry, so yeah. Though in this one, it has exercises for you, and that is not quite something that I have done. So the way I would read is just kind of, see what they're trying to get to, and trying to perhaps implement that in the things that I'm writing, but not see it as right or wrong. So I open on page 88, and in Dutch it says, not too many flashbacks. So yeah, according to Sidfield, don't use too many flashbacks. Well, happily I don't hardly use any of them, so it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. So it is quite in good condition, about a second hand, of course. I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year, sort of last year. So 211 pages, quite a short book. Yeah, good formatting, good big letters, spacing, adequate spacing in the thing. The color white, not too discolored. yeah, I am interested in what he has to say that is different from the other books that I read, because I read the Screenwriter's Problem Solver, which helped me when I was writing like a project for film school. It helped me, and there was just one paragraph that said something that resonated a lot with the issues that I was having, and by that I was able to solve the issue. So I'm interested in this, and it's extremely relevant to what I want to do. Um, so I should probably this should probably be one of the next 5 books I should read. Yeah. Am I all that interested? No, because it is a workbook. And I don't usually like those things unless I'm learning, say, a language or a subject for university, but I'm done with university, so yeah. But this should be helpful and useful and great and everything. So yeah. 210 pages. I think the whole bundle together was 10 euros. So I cannot price it separately. But I'll put 10 euros for the bundle. The Screenwriters workbook. Okay. I'll say the likelihood of reading this year is, very high. Am I all that interested? No, because it's a workbook, but I'm interested in the subject. So I'll give it an 8.5 as well. So one that I have here is a vintage version of Jaws by Peter Benchley. It's red, has no back writing or front writing, it's just a red cover, and I like it. It's thick, old, and nice. Just overall a different look to everything else that I have here. It looks nice on the shelf, and it's a story from a classic movie. So yeah. There's some discoloring, yellowing of the pages. Very nice formatting. I like the font. There's adequate spacing, inner spacing, outer spacing. Also here is a good spacing. This has really nice formatting. This I could read really fast and just be like, wow, this is flowing. Nice picture of a shark here, the part 2. Yeah, it looks really nice. And the story is also nice. So it's good to see how it is in the book format. And also not too long, 272 pages. Which in most books it probably is slightly less because this one is quite big. But 272. I got it for 150. Honestly, I think already this year is also kind of a summary book for me, I feel. So when I travel somewhere and probably sit on the beach and I'm reading, I'm like, okay, let the sharks come. Yeah, I think already this year. I think it's quite likely. It's interesting. It's beautiful, and yeah. Also, a bit of a smaller introduction, but I got in a secondhand store. I saw the name, was like, yeah, I have to get it. It's a classic. And I guess it's just enough. It's a famous book. You're interested because people love it. So, yeah. So Jaws, 272 pages for 150. Written by Peter Benchley. Peter Benchley. I think I'll give it a 7, just because I don't feel like I'll read it in a normal setup. Maybe a 6.5. I'll have to get like in a sort of holiday setup, having fun setup, and mind's pace. That doesn't happen all that often nowadays. I'm kind of almost every time I read, it is mainly to learn, so to get to enjoy, just having fun. It will take some time, and the occasion has to play with it as well. So I think I'll put it as a 6.5. Most likely will get read this year, but we'll see. Next one is another Penguin book. It is Anxious People by Frederick Backman. It has sold 15 million copies. I mean, the author has sold 15 million copies. It is also being adapted as a Netflix TV show. And according to Matt Haig, it is a brilliant and comforting read. You see, it's a nice red color. There's some windows here, 5 in total. One with a person doing something with a lamp, it seems. One of them is drinking tea or coffee in front of the window. There's a cat in front of the other one. Somebody's working on her laptop on this 4th one. And there's a pregnant woman or a fat man, and he seems to be touching his belly, or she seems to be touching her belly. They seem to be talking, looking at each other in a loving way. Oh, there's another one of a man looking out. It is a New York Times bestseller, #1 bestseller. It's a funny, compassionate, and wise, an absolute joy of a book, it seems. Yeah, quite a lot of good words from different pages and everything. I knew it cost £18.99. I got it for free. It was down the entrance of my apartment. I saw it there. I was like, Netflix series? I've never heard of it. Might as well just snatch it in case it turns out to be a good book. I think it happened 2 years ago. I forgot about it. I just found it when I was looking for books to do this video, and yeah. Oh, okay. So it has some, what is it, text notes, interesting font. Lots of parentheses, makes fonts. Seems to be quite seems to be written for the newer generation, my generation, or perhaps a newer one. I don't know. No, it's not too bad. The formatting, it's a good size, good spacing, vertically and horizontally, not too bad. Though it is a little bit inconsistency with the formatting and choices, like random punctuation and parentheses. So I suppose the writer is trying to appeal to a younger generation. He probably worked because he got to Netflix, and if he gets to Netflix, most likely is directed towards the newer generation. Interesting. I do not think I'll read it this year. One, I'm not an anxious person. I know this is not about anxious people per se, but I don't know. It's not really calling me all that much. I think it is highly unlikely that I'll read it this year. But it does seem to be a nice book, just not something for now. So yeah, Anxious People. By Frederick Backman. It was free, and it is a large book. The writer's quite young. Should be late 30s, young 40s. Let's see. Oh, okay. $407 pages. Yeah, I'll read it. Seems to be a fun book, just not this year. So I'll give it a 1 on how likely it is that I read it this year, because I really think I will not. Yeah. So we're back to the last. We're down to the last 3 now. Getting to new pages. John Steinbeck, Of Mice and Men. Quite a classic. I got this for high school, but I actually never had to read it. It just gave me like bundles of books and everything, and I think we read maybe 20% of them because they never came back into the course. So this one was one of them that I never had to read, but I still kept because it's a classic and I will read it one day. And the reason why I got slightly more interested in it is because I was watching Lost and characters were reciting them. There were 2 of my favorite characters. They were reciting them back and forth, and yeah, got me slightly more interested. It is an extremely short book, and just like coloring, when I got them, they were new, but they were so long in the shelf that, yeah, they got their coloring. Not the best font, and oh, there's the N-word. Interesting formatting, but it should be easy to read. It's quite big, and it's made for kids, teenagers, so it shouldn't be too much of a hassle to read anyway, especially because it was for our second language. Yeah. yeah, I'll definitely read it this year. Just because it is a classic. Sometimes you want to have something short to read that is also relevant, history, literary history. So, yeah, I have no idea what it is about. Okay, slightly less interested now. But yeah, I'll probably read it. Short book of 106 pages. A classic by John Steinbeck. Not the most excited about, but still excited enough. I got it for free, and that makes it all that much better. Of Mice and Men. Free. I'll give it a 6. How likely it is that I read it this year? I most likely will, but there's a chance that I don't, just because the story doesn't draw me all that much. So this one is another one by Sitfield. It is part of the bundle that I bought. It is Selling a Screenplay, the Screenwriter's Guide to Hollywood. How to pitch, sell, and market your screenplay. What they want, who to see, what to do. Plus, advice from today's top screenwriters: Oliver Stone, Dan Patrick Jr., Alvin Sargent, James L. Brooks, Anna Hamilton Fallon, William Kelly, Earl Wallace, and Douglas Day Stewart. Author of 4 screenplays, Sitfield. Yeah, once again, relevant to what I want to do in my career. And it is not the first one that I read about selling screenplays. And although it is not necessarily the most fun stuff to read, it is interesting because you get to understand the person, the people you'll be working with, if you get good enough to be there, and you kind of start to understand how they think and how you should portray yourself in your screenplay as well. So I feel like it is a necessary read, so you can also protect yourself and protect your story as well as portray it as perhaps more than it actually is. I don't know, but it should be interesting to read. I think even more than the workbook, and I gave that a 8.5. This will have to be higher. I have to be in the 9s, just because I want to sell a screenplay. I want to make a screenplay as well, but I want to sell one, and I want to try to understand how to do that and how to talk to them. Even though I've had classes about it and I've read books that say this, it's still nice. Different perspective of somebody who has authored 4 screenplays. So yeah. Also, again, there's uneven printing on top. Printing. There's this coloring, slightly smaller than I like lettering, though the spacing is okay. The inner edges are a little tight, but not too tight, I guess. It's a short-ish book. Not very short, but short-ish. 282 pages. I think it's going to like normal. It's shortish, normal-ish. Yeah, I have to read it. It's just more of that. I just have to read it. That's what it is. So it'll be in the 9. It's not a 10 because I'm not all that excited about it, but I have to. So it's relevant. It's most likely not too hard to read because these books are usually made very easy to read. So especially when you understand what you're talking about, it becomes even easier. I feel like this will be good as an audiobook as well. So I might do that, and then alternate between audiobooks and this. But I'll see. Yeah. Selling. Screen. Give it a 9. It's 10-year bundle, 282 pages. By Sid Field, selling a screenplay. So the other one is Culture and Psychology by David Matsumoto. It's a thin book, old as well, and it seems more of a study book you'd get at university, and I think that's probably the case with this as well, because it looks, when it gets to the formatting, slightly wider. There's photos involved. The page is plasticky. Yeah, it's just like a university book. But it is relevant because culture is what we're all part of, and want to create something for culture as well. And I have to understand the psychology of people and my own psychology and psychology of the characters to do what it is that I want to do, and I feel like this is relevant. It is perhaps not all that interesting on a first glance, but it is interesting because I always want to improve, and I feel like most people want to improve as well. So you get to improve your knowledge, to gain more knowledge, and that is always exciting to a certain extent. So yeah. Okay, there's a glossary just like in the middle of it. Very small letters, but good thing our site is good. Still good, at least. Yeah. This is definitely being read in a university. That's probably why I got it, honestly. There. Somebody probably just had it for their university course, and then they didn't need it anymore, so they gave it to the thrift store. When was it written? 1996. Okay. So it must be quite outdated. Unless this is a newer version of the 1996. But it should still be relevant. People think still that way, most likely. Or close enough that if you read it, you get to understand and learn new things. 347. It's not very long per se, but since the pages are a little wide and the letters are small, This will be the hardest one to read and get through, and I most likely will not read it this year, but there's a small chance. There's a small chance I actually will. If I get to my learning habit and I want to learn something, I might probably get to it. So yeah. Number 12, Culture and Psychology by David Matsumoto. 278 pages it was. No, 349. Yeah, that we has to read. And was 95 cents. Quite cheap. I'll give it a 3.5. Just by that small chance that I might read it this year. It is relevant. Just not all that interesting per se. That leaves us selling a screenplay as number 1 read. And then Screenwriter's Workbook. Alongside Astrophysics. "120 Days of Sodom." And to complete the top 5, it's Perfume. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry for the ordering. So much space. So these are the top 5 books that I'm most likely to read this year. And I think that looks pretty accurate. They're all interesting in their sense. They're all good. I think and I hope. Either way, this is the end of cataloging part of my collection that I have not read yet. And it has been helpful to myself. And I have a guideline of the books, the physical books that I have to read. In case I want to read something physical, I don't want to buy a new one. I know which ones I will read first, and the reason why I'll do that, so there will be less thinking involved, and I'll hopefully, because of that, read more as well, because then I realize how many of unread books I have at home that need to find their place in my heart and in my memory. So yeah.